When planning a new battleship class in the 1930s, the U.S. Navy was heavily constrained by international treaty limitations, which included a requirement that all new capital ships have a standard displacement of under 35,600 tons. This restriction meant the Navy couldn't construct a ship with the firepower, armor, and speed it truly desired. The resulting balancing act led the Navy to consider 50 widely varying designs. While early studies focused on fast battleships, the Navy's General Board wasn't fully committed to high speed. The North Carolina class, therefore, had multiple types of designs, both realized and undeveloped. By late September 1935, 5 more design studies were produced. These designs featured speeds between 23 and 30.5 knots, 8 or 9, 14 or 16-inch guns, and displacements ranging from 30,500 to 41,100 tons. Among them, designs D and E were attempts at fast battleships with 16-inch guns, but their displacement was simply greater than the Washington Naval Treaty allowed. Then there was Design F. This was a radical attempt at a hybrid battleship carrier. It featured 3 catapults mounted forward and 8 14-inch guns aft. It was reportedly favored by President Franklin Roosevelt. However, because aircraft launched from catapults were necessarily inferior due to the floats needed for landing, nothing ever came of the design. But let's talk about a what-if. Hypothetically, in the late 1930s, facing budget constraints and a desire for multi-role capital ships, the U.S. Navy orders this radical F design, a battle carrier based on the North Carolina hull. The core challenge is that aircraft facilities, the hangar, flight deck, and elevators, take up an immense amount of space and weight. To fit them, something has to give. A logical compromise for a 1930s design would be to sacrifice the rear main battery. You would remove the aft 2 or 3 main gun turrets to make space for the flight deck and hangar, while keeping the forward turrets to retain a powerful surface engagement capability. The result would be a full-length flight deck covering the aft 40% of the ship, with a single catapult and 2 elevators. An enclosed hangar bay underneath could hold approximately 30-40 aircraft, likely a mix of F-4F Wildcat fighters and SBD Dauntless dive bombers. However, it would be too small to operate large torpedo bombers effectively. But why was it never built? The simple answer is, jack of all trades, master of none. It would be inferior to a dedicated battleship in a gunfight, with fewer main guns, and inferior to a dedicated carrier in air operations, with a smaller, slower air wing and a vulnerable flight deck. Now in the game, this what if becomes a reality. The new Blitzpass ship is the U.S. Navy Tier 8 Connecticut battleship, a Battlecarrier. This ship is fictional, but its design is based on that North Carolina variant we just discussed. As you can tell from the history, this ship is a Battlecarrier, which means it has aircraft. It comes with a historical and a unique camouflages. I've used historical camo on this content, but unique on is better. We're equipped with rapid reload and anti-aircraft skills. Let's see if these can protect us against the already chaotic Tier 8 matchmaking. As we mentioned before, when choosing equipment and elite bonuses for American battleships, it's almost always advantageous to go with the main gun range increase, because it also improves dispersion. A key difference with the Connecticut Battlecarrier is that it has torpedo bombers instead of dive bombers. So this time, I'm going to try something different for you. I'll select the torpedo boost as the elite bonus and combine it with specific commander skills. This way, you'll be able to see exactly what the final point of torpedo reinforcement looks like without having to test it yourself. Let's jump in. So, Commander Spock is a pretty solid choice for American aircraft carriers, and I've had some good results with him. I actually ran this same captain on my Connecticut, and it worked out well. Battlefield support and air defense expert. They give the ship a nice anti-aircraft punch and a welcome boost to our own skills. And let's be honest, with how rare it is to find a match without a carrier these days, that AA power is almost essential. Now I know Level 2 Aerobatic Maneuver Plus isn't doing much for me since I'm running a torpedo squadron build. But for me, the real value comes later. I was aiming for that Level 9 module damage chance, and especially the Giant Hunter Plus skill to really boost my torpedo damage against bigger targets. Nebraska performs quite poorly in Tier 8, but this is not the case for Connecticut. Compared to Nebraska, it has much better acceleration, maneuverability, turret rotation speed, and better anti-aircraft power. The torpedo squad performs better on such a battleship than the bomber squad. It is definitely not in such a hopeless situation as Nebraska. Although the main gun damage is slightly lower, it performs much better in many ways. The accuracy of the quad turrets is excellent. Tanking is better because we have better damage reduction. However, there's nothing we can do about hybrids having a wider hitbox and dealing more citadel hits. We have to stay in a vertical position. Although they are similar in size and many other aspects, Connecticut offers a much better hybrid experience than Nebraska. In terms of area control and durability, it can deliver good damage and success at a Tier 8 level. I like it. By the way, hybrids are part of the game, so I think we need to get used to them instead of rebelling against them. I compared it to North Carolina because you might know about its main gun. As I mentioned earlier, these ships are alternative designs to North Carolina. However, there is an issue here, which is that it is highly unlikely for Connecticut to have the same secondary batteries as North Carolina in terms of design, but this is the case in Blitz. As we mentioned at the beginning, battle carriers lose excessive volume for aircraft, elevators, and hangars, so their secondary batteries cannot be designed to be the same amount as those of a battleship due to design limitations. Finally, to give you a comparison regarding torpedo squadrons, I'm comparing Connecticut and Enterprise. Here, we'll only look at torpedo bombers because they have no other common features. The Connecticut has a wide torpedo firing cone with 6 torpedoes per sortie, so you can't say you can't hit anything. The torpedo bomber HP being higher than the Enterprise's is again unlikely in terms of design, but it is one of the points that makes the Connecticut a powerful and viable Tier 8 ship. Connecticut is quite effective against battleships at long range. I like its main gun dispersion and accuracy. Although I sometimes encounter half penetrations against cruisers, its penetration against battleships is successful. If you can combine torpedo bombers and main guns with rapid reload, you can achieve quick results at the right time.
Designated area. Huh? Alert! There's an indication of
Its top speed is the same, but it has much better acceleration than similar ships. The turret rotation speed is also effective. The penalty for giving your broadside at enemy battleships is severe. Yes, I like this ship. It's a very nice Blitzpass ship. Now getting this ship will allow you to build much more toxic teams in Tier 8 and turn Tier 8 into a brutal tier. The idea of teaming it with Sanzang or Enterprise to unleash a torpedo barrage on the enemy team isn't very appealing, guys, but what can we do? That's how it is. I'm looking forward to your comments. Stay tuned.
The projectile has effectively breached the armor. projectile has effectively breached the armor. We successfully inflicted damage on the target. If penetration of the target's armor has been confirmed, go to hell. We managed to get a clear shot. Penetration of the target's armor has been confirmed. Enemy force sighted on the horizon. We managed to get a clear shot. Penetration of the target's armor has been confirmed. Requesting fire support. The vessel's structural integrity is compromised beneath the waterline. Projectile has effectively breached the armor. vessel's structural integrity is compromised beneath the waterline. Penetration of the target's armor has been confirmed. Alert! There is an indication of combustion. Is not so pleasing, after all, as wanting. Force detected. Live long and prosper. Enemy force detected. Having is not so pleasing, after all, as wanting. Force sighted on the horizon. We successfully inflicted damage on the target. Projectile has effectively breached the armor. Penetration of the target's armor has been confirmed. The successful resolution of this confrontation appears imminent. The successful resolution of this confrontation appears imminent. The projectile has effectively breached the armor.